White people are obsessed with capitalism. I swear, they won't shut up about it. White people's entire identity is wrapped up in capitalism and private property like a security blanket that they refuse to let go of, even when it actively hurts them. They treat wealth accumulation like it's a moral good, defend billionaires who exploit them, and prioritize property over human lives. While many cultures throughout history have seen land, wealth, and resources as communal or at least socially managed, white societies took greed and hoarding to new extremes. White Europeans didn't just believe in private property, they justified stealing it from everyone else. The doctrine of discovery in 1493 gave white Christians the right to claim land that wasn't theirs, basically legalizing global land theft. The Enclosure Acts in England between the 16 and 1800s forced peasants off of communal land so white elites could privatize everything. The U.S. Homestead Act of 1862 gave white settlers millions of acres of stolen indigenous land for free, while indigenous people were slaughtered for resisting. White people went across the world saying, "This is mine," while ignoring the people already living there. Australia? Stolen. South Africa? Stolen. India, the Americas, the Caribbean, colonized and looted. Meanwhile, indigenous and African cultures had long-standing communal land management systems, until white people imposed artificial property rights. White people obsess over land and property because their entire history is built on taking it from others. White Americans in particular will vote against their own interests to protect capitalism. Working-class white people constantly vote for politicians who cut their wages, gut their healthcare, and raise their taxes, all to own the libs. White conservatives hate welfare, even though white people make up the largest group of welfare recipients. They scream about socialism, but then demand bailouts for their farms, businesses, and banks. They worship billionaires who exploit them. Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Donald Trump are treated like gods, even though they exploit workers and hoard wealth. White people will defend CEOs making 500 times their workers' salary while complaining about poor people having iPhones. Meanwhile, other cultures focus on mutual aid, cooperative economies, and community wealth building, instead of extreme individualism. White people's obsession with capitalism is literally killing them and everyone else, and yet they defend it at all costs. White Americans would rather let people die than question property rights. Homelessness is at record levels, yet there are more empty houses than unhoused people. White landlords raise rents while crying about how hard it is to own property and keep up with inflation. Squatters are treated worse than corporate landlords who buy entire neighborhoods just to leave them empty. The police exist mainly to protect white people's obsession with private property. Cops will kill someone over a stolen candy bar, but let billionaires commit tax fraud daily. During protests, white conservatives scream about property damage instead of caring about police brutality. White settlers justified genocide by saying indigenous people didn't properly use their land, as if that excused stealing it. White people's fetishization of private property is one of the most morally bankrupt aspects of their culture. And everywhere white people have gone, they've imposed capitalism, usually through violence. White Europeans destroyed self-sustaining economies in Africa, Asia, and the Americas to force people into dependence on capitalism. Colonialism drained resources from non-white nations while white elites got rich. The U.S. has overthrown dozens of democratically elected leaders in Latin America and Africa just to keep global capitalism running. Even today, white-led corporations exploit the global south. White CEOs profit off of child labor in the Congo, sweatshops in Bangladesh, and land grabs in Brazil. White countries control global financial institutions like the IMF and the World Bank, trapping developing nations in debt. When non-white countries try socialist or cooperative economic models, white governments call it a threat to democracy. White capitalism never actually promotes free markets. It enforces global white dominance. White people have convinced themselves that making money without producing anything is normal. Stock markets, hedge funds, real estate speculation, white people love getting rich without actually working. They created the concept of middlemen and consultants who contribute nothing but get paid millions. crypto and NFTs, white finance bros made up fake assets just to scam each other. Meanwhile, actual productive labor is undervalued. Teachers, nurses, and factory workers get scraps, while white finance bros make billions moving numbers on a screen. Gig economy jobs like Uber and DoorDash are modern-day sharecropping, yet white libertarians praise them as entrepreneurship. White people's version of capitalism isn't about producing wealth. It's about hoarding, gatekeeping, and profiting off of other people's labor. White capitalists also know they're losing control, which is why they're getting desperate. Global capitalism is crumbling, and white elites are terrified of wealth redistribution. They're gutting workers' rights, crushing unions, and inflating the housing market to keep their grip on power. They push AI and automation not for progress, but to eliminate jobs and keep people poor. White conservatives would rather destroy society than let go of capitalism. They'd rather die of medical debt than support universal health care. They'd rather see climate change burn the planet than regulate corporations. They'd rather cling to their failing white-dominated capitalism than admit that other economic systems might work better. White people's obsession with capitalism and private property is so deep, they'd rather burn the world than give up control. The obsession isn't just irrational, it's also destroying their society. Cope.
Barakatha Yahweh, Barakatha Yahweh Shai, Barakatha Yahweh, Barakatha Yahweh Shai, Barakatha Yahweh, Barakatha Yahweh Shai, Call Halayim Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakah HaKwadash, double honors to the apostles, the elders, and bishops of Great Millstone who rule well over the flock of Israel. Shalom and salutations to you. I come out here pushing the words of truth and sincerity. I'm Rapah Math. I brought this video is edifying. And let's get right into it. Basically, what I have here is our NLT, by the way, because it's a lot of Old Testament laws and whatnot. So I'm keeping the NLT for the sake of just ease of understanding. And, capitalism is America's treaty, basically with itself, that it would always be capitalist. It would always be for sale. There would always be something worth selling. Which means there's always going to be some type of, gain from having something for sale, or gain from buying and selling. And so the economy, the money, the system really works off of buying and selling, which makes the MOTB even more employable in this time, or implementable in this time and age, because everything in a capitalist society is for sale. I'm gonna have a few short videos which explain what would be the opposite of a capitalist society. I ain't really gonna go into that right now, but it's basically socialism, or what they would call like similar to communism. That's the term today, and you'll see they'll beat you up around Babylon, whether you're Republican or Democrat. They'll beat you up if you had this idea. But as the videos I'm going to play is, you're going to see that a lot of the younger people are leaning heavily, like Generation Z, they leaning heavily towards socialism. People are starting to recognize that capitalism ain't nothing but a greed for the rich. It's a money grab for the rich. Capitalism is not what everybody got in their body. Everybody don't have that in their soul to be able to sell and to be able to buy and to be able to, make merchandise of various things and sell. And everybody don't got that hustle mentality. So you pretty much lose. You're on the losing end if you don't hustle some form of fashion, if you don't sell. And the scriptures tell you there's sin that sticketh to buying and selling, stick it closely. So wherever you got buying and selling that, you're going to have greed, you're going to have evil, you're going to have wickedness, you're going to have adultery, you're going to have murder, you're going to have all of these things. And this is why Babylon had been a golden cup in the Lord's hands, because all of the witchcraft and lies and fornication that it sells it on the idea of capitalism. You can be like me. That's why America, Babylon in the scriptures is that woman that's adorned, right? And scarlet is a color that symbolizes riches or royalty. America has lived deliciously, the scriptures say. So all of these things are going to come to naught, as you could see, or as you will see, because they did it in wickedness. Now, Deuteronomy 4:1, it says, and now Israel, listen carefully to these decrees and regulations that I am about to teach you. So what's the decrees, the laws? It says, obey them, that's so that you may live, so you may enter and occupy the land that the Lord, the power of your ancestors, has given you. So it was very simple of a command to say, just do these decrees. But as we all know, we ended up in captivity because we didn't hold on to these decrees. As of Deuteronomy 28 and 15 on down, you understand that the curses that came upon our people are the exact same curses that fit our people to this day, right? Whether it's the violence, separation of family, household, and enslavement. But we are, the Lord gave us that decree to keep, these decrees to keep. And many of them hearken on to how we're supposed to deal with each other. Proverbs 16:8 says, better to have little with godliness than to be rich and dishonest. And here's the thing, when in capitalism and you can be all you can be, and it's the American dream, get out there and make something of yourself. Look, everybody's not going to be a capitalist. Everybody's not trying to spend every waking moment of their life to find a way to make more money. You just chasing money all your life, and that's the epitome of life here in Babylon. It really is. And when you don't have money, that's pretty much the only thing you could think about. So they loophole you, right? But the scriptures tell you better to have little with godliness than to be rich and dishonest. So there's so much more better people who are considered impoverished or in poverty or poor or beneath the poor poverty line, and you know what I'm saying? Basically scraping two coins together, making ends meet, so to speak, paycheck to paycheck. A lot of these people, because they have godliness, those that of them that do have godliness, they're better off than the rich, because a lot of the rich are dishonest. That's why you see a lot of this going on with U.S. aid. You're paying attention right now with what's going on in the these executive orders and Elon Musk and Trump. They're catching a lot of spending that was basically loopholed to go right back into the politicians' pockets. And they also caught the politicians basically giving aid to a lot of terrorist organizations. Come to find out, a lot of these T attacks that happen overseas, hint, hint, October 7th and things of that nature, were programmed. They were given money by U.S. taxpayer money to fund these T attacks and these T organizations, man. So it's nothing new under the sun. Again, it's better to have little with godliness than to be rich and dishonest. That's what you find here in Babylon. A lot of dishonesty. Let's continue. Ezekiel 45:10. Use only honest weights and scales and honest measures, both dry and liquid. And that's pretty simple, straight to the point, right? Why does it have to be a command to use honest weights and scales? Because you had people that would tip the scales in their favor. They would hide little things under the scale to weigh it down in their favor. They would mess up the coinage by way of liquefying the coin and then adding a dross metal into the coin so it wasn't pure anymore, in order to make more money. Scamming is nothing new. Scheming is nothing new. And it was nothing new then, and it's nothing new now. So I'm going to play a quick video, and I'm going to come back with the preset.
Let's talk about the newest bit of evidence for the leftward shift among American young people. According to a new poll by Axios, only half of younger Americans now hold a positive view of capitalism. This is a pretty significant change. Just 2 years ago, the margin was a massive 20 points, with 58% of 18 to 34-year-olds reporting a positive opinion of capitalism, and 38% a negative opinion. Now, the numbers are much closer. Among the same age group, 49% view capitalism favorably, and 46% unfavorably. This shift has been driven in large part by Gen Z, those aged 18 to 24. This age group has just 42% positive opinion, and a striking 54% negative. Unsurprisingly, the 35 to 64 and 65 plus age groups have remained largely unchanged, with both groups reporting high favorability for capitalism. What is surprising is that young Republicans have actually trended away from capitalism as well. In 2019, 81% of Republicans and right-leaning people aged 18 to 34 had a positive view of capitalism. Today, that number has fallen to 66%. That's pretty shocking considering just how aggressively Republicans tend to defend capitalism. Interestingly, the shift towards socialism has been slower than the shift away from capitalism. If I had to guess, I would suspect that the decades of anti-communist propaganda that has been hammered into the American psyche since the Cold War is the main roadblock.
Real quick, while I was reading or watching the video and checking out the comments, I noticed a lot of people got stuff to say concerning American capitalism or capitalism of the world. And I'm going to read a few of them. This guy wrote, Spicy Noodles wrote, "What scares me and annoys me about capitalism is that many times you cannot criticize it without being called a communist. They see it as a perfect system, and if you try to talk about a failure immediately, it is as if you were a socialist. How are we supposed to improve a system which we cannot even criticize?" Right. And in the same video, they show you this woman, Nancy Pelosi, and she used to be like the House Speaker. And what she's saying is to her own party group members, the young ones, she's saying, no, we not socialists. We're not socialists. Anytime you have a question about capitalism and if it's useful and needful, these people, whether Republican or Democrat, they reject it. So America pretty much sold on the premise and idea that everything capitalist is good. Now, another comment says from Mega Locana, it says, "It's hard to say that capitalism works when I've experienced more than once in a lifetime economic collapse before being able to order a beer at a restaurant." All right. So they under 21 and they've already experienced a few economic collapse. I'm just reading one more. Queena says, "Only when the last tree has been cut down, the last fish has been caught, and the last stream poisoned, will we realize we cannot eat money." And that's what's going on. Everything is for sale. Everything. At some point in time, something has to, there's nothing else to buy up, right? The earth is only so big. You got people that own millions of acres, corporations that own trillions of dollars. At some point in time, there's nothing left to buy. Well, what's next is people. See, you people is about to be commoditized. That's where Revelations 13 and 16 on down, the mark of the beast comes into play. It's the commoditization or the enslavement of people. The last frontier of capitalism is to enslave people. So basically, people are now catching on, man, especially the younger generations. They see how much it costs to live this American dream. Bro, you got to sell your soul. And this is what the scriptures tell you. What has a man gained if he selleth his soul, and lose it, gain the whole world and loseth his soul. All right. You're supposed to retain your soul. You're supposed to be able to retain your honesty. You're supposed to be able to retain your civility and your morality, no matter what. That's called integrity. You're supposed to stand on that. All right. Amos 8 and 4 says, "Listen to this, you who rob the poor and trample down the needy. You can't wait for the Sabbath day to be over and the religious festivals to end so you can get back to cheating the helpless." And this goes on to this day, right? You got a lot of fake Israelite camps out there. We say it, we always call it out, man. And what they're doing is just making merchandise of men, all right, and women, all right? They're leading away silly women captive, right? This whole idea where you can still live out the American dream. We're going to be here from today. The Lord might come back anytime from now to 1,000 years. You might as well settle down and settle in. You see, this is cheating the helpless in today's terms. In the ancient world terms, they were just robbing you. They were just robbing you people, and they couldn't wait till the Sabbath day was over. Supposedly, right, they keeping the Sabbath, but then to go ahead and be a traitor and a backstabber to their own people who are already in straits. And so Israelites, just the fact that you're an Israelite ain't enough, man. You got to be an Israelite of the Most High, as you can see. All right. It says you measure out grain with dishonest measures and cheat the buyer with dishonest scales. And that's what they used to do. Measure everything. Here's your grain. Here's 2 homers of grain. You go back to the house, you realize it wasn't nothing there. Something was wrong with the scale. It was a dishonest scale. And so to this day, there's a lot of dishonesty. There's a lot of cheating going on and involved. This is Verse 6, and you mix the grain you sell with chaff, swept from the floor. This is how evil and wicked our people was. Again, they waited till the Sabbath was over so they can go back and make money off of our people by cheating them. So the same one, shalom, right? Keeping the Sabbath. All right, rehearsing the righteous acts, went back and was a demon on demon time as soon as the sun went down. It says, then you enslave poor people for one piece of silver or a pair of sandals. Now, again, this is can I straight up say that capitalism is evil? No, because in the scriptures you got capitalists. You got those of our people who just, traded, right? Silk, the spices, food. That's a trade. That's capitalism. Anytime you sell something and buy it for a gain, that's capitalism. But you're not supposed to cheat people for it, right? That's that dishonest, fraudulent behavior, and especially not your own. And I emphasize your own. The Israelites wasn't supposed to cheat other Israelites, because there's scriptures that basically allow you to do things to other nations that you can't do to Israel. I'll go into them, very shortly. So, again, is capitalism a issue? Only with dishonesty is it an issue? But we were also people that was moving with socialism as well. When you go into the accounts of the book of Acts, you're going to find that at some point in time, we all sold everything we had. And there was a story of Ananias and Sapphira, a husband and wife, who held back some of their sales money and didn't communally give it together and put it together in the community. And they was destroyed. They were killed. Basically the Lord just put them to death on the spot once they were found out. And so, amongst Israel, there was plenty of times and different events occurring throughout the scriptures in which, people wouldn't take money for favors. They just did it out of the kindness of their heart, right? Or they were just showing compassion here, or hospitality there, right? Or they would just or we would just operate together. If somebody was hungry, you would just feed them. You wouldn't ask for how much you got or what you got. So it's hospitality is a normal thing for Jacob, the upright man. Especially to look out for your own. A brother don't got no place to live, you put him up. You don't at that time talk about, well, you got, I'll see what I could do. No, you put him up, man. Hey, man, the Lord watching. You see, and it's the bottom line. Now, you don't try to be over righteous. Look, I'm gonna do, but there was points in time when all the prophets was being crucified, killed and slaughtered, and men would put up prophets. Obadiah, for account, he would put up 50 prophets in the cave at a time, and his life ended up being about hospitality at that point in time. Well, did he probably have other things to do? Sure. But at that moment in time, he was commandeered by the Heavenly Father to be able to preserve prophets. So you got to take that into account. Even if you're making money, even if you out here balling, there's going to come a situation. There will come a situation in which you just got to either house a brother, or you just got to, you should be, be able to, give brothers arms in need, or just be able to, feed brothers at a time. You just got to understand, we the nation that can go from capitalism one day, in the same day be able to be like socialists, give back, so called. All right, give alms. Amos 8:4 says, listen to this, you who rob the poor and trample down the needy. You can't, Slaki, I read that one. Ezekiel 7:10, it says, the day of judgment is here, your destruction awaits. The people's wickedness and pride have blossomed to full flower. Their violence has grown into a rod that will beat them for their wickedness. Listen up. None of these proud and wicked people will survive. So you can't make it out with this pride. The super capitalist people, man, they proud. And think about it. There's brackets for a reason. There's like tiers of how much you make. They call it, I forget what they call it. Income class or something like that. And based upon your income, you get taxed different tax brackets. And so you'll have somebody from a low tax bracket, let's say middle, what's it called? Let's say, I don't know, 30 to 40,000 a year. They'll look down on people making 20,000 and 10,000 a year, barely scratching the surface. Then you got people that's making 70K that look down on 50K. You got people that's making 150K that look down on people making 80K. And then it goes on and on and on. There's tier after tier after tier of this pride and this arrogant spirit. And so that's why the Lord didn't want us to be all caught up into these things, man. And he made sure that there was laws in place that we wouldn't start doing each other in just to make money. The love of money is the root of all evil. That's the concept here. And here in Babylon, boy, they love money. And you're trained and taught from a young age, love money. Your parents teach you basically in a roundabout way to love money. Music teaches you to love money for the love of the money. But it also should teach you that the adverse effect to love of money is to be destroyed and to be completely evil. Their violence, Salaki, it says their violence has grown into a rod that will beat them for their wickedness. None of these proud and wicked people will survive. All their wealth and prestige will be swept away. And that's what we're expecting to see. You just had that situation with Zelensky and Trump and J.D. Vance, the vice president, in the Oval Office, in which they were straight up talking about, World War III. And Zelensky said, he prophesied on America. He said, you don't have it now because you got that big ocean, but you're going to see. You're going to be. And that's when Trump stepped in. But that's what is going to happen. All their wealth and prestige is going to be swept away. Babylon says the scripture in 1 hour. It says, yes, the time has come. The day is here. Buyers should not rejoice over bargains, nor sellers grieve over losses, for all of them will fall under my terrible anger. Even if the merchants survive, they will never return to their business. For what Yahweh has said applies to everyone. It will not be changed. Not one person whose life is twisted by sin will ever recover. And that's the idea here. If you're going to let money get you to the point where you are willfully sinning for the cash, for the love of the money, well, you're not going to recover from that. And you're going to be just like the rest of them, chaff. All right. This is Exodus 22 and 25. If you lend money to any of my people who are in need, who's the Lord's people? Israel. So the Lord has a people, even though he created all people, he has his own people who he called my people. And that's the Israelites. So he's talking about lending money. Now this is a situation in which somebody fell on hard times and you give them some cash. It says, if you lend money to any of my people who are in need and you give them cash with the expectation of them paying it back. It says, do not charge interest as a money lender would. What's a money lender? That's somebody who gives you money, but they have an interest. So 10%. So by the time you pay that back, if it's compounding, depending on how long the terms, you might owe that man $1,500 back by the time you pay him back. By the time he gives you, he lends you $10,000, and then by the time he pays you back, if he was kind enough, it might be of a lender, it might be 1,100, or 11,000. Sometimes in this society, they charge exorbitant amounts like credit cards, 25% and whatnot. That's why it's behoove you to pay off your credit cards ASAP. Don't let them compound, or loans for that matter. But they also have clauses in there that prevent you from paying certain things off fast. I don't think credit cards is that, but certain loans, they got clauses just to make sure that they can get more money out of you. Yeah, right. You can't pay every day a credit card. There's a they stop you from making a payment every day. Let's say you want to pay it off every day, a little bit here every day. You can't do that. So that's what money lending is all about. Now with Israel, concerning Israel, we're not allowed to do that. So what happens to capitalism right here? It gets cut short. See, because you just can't make money any way you want to, especially off the needy and the poor. Deuteronomy 15:1, it says, at the end of every 7th year, you must cancel the debts of everyone who owes you money. Now, here goes the super clause that shows you that the Lord really don't give a damn about no capitalism. He cares about his people. Because it says plainly, the end of the 7th year, And I believe that's talking about I'm just going to leave it at that. There is a year of Jubilee, but I think that's an entirely different situation. I think that's 49 years. So at the end of every 7th year, so every 7 years, right, the year of Jubilee is something different. You must cancel the debts of everyone who owes you money. Now, think about that, Israel. You know, you got a brother that might have owed you money 10 years ago. You ain't supposed to be walking around screw facing this brother, man. Yeah, let that sit. You're not supposed to, according to the law. You supposed to 7 years done passed. You know, maybe a man paid it down. He still owes you $350. That was seven. If you loaned it 7 years ago, it's time to let it go. That's what the scriptures say. That's what the law says. Try to do that to one of these guys in some of these camps that's promote the law. It says, this is how it must be done. Everyone must cancel the loans they have made to their fellow Israelites. They must not demand payment from their neighbors or relatives, for the Lord's time of release has arrived. It don't matter if he still owe you money. The Lord's time of release has arrived. And that'd be wicked for somebody to just, and you know Israel was doing that. They just skip town. You ain't seen them for about 7 years, and they stroll back into town after you know. So Israel, man, they found ways and loopholes to be wicked, even with the laws, trying to work around it, to be evil. It says, this release from debt, however, applies only to your fellow Israelites. And this is key here, man, because people like to, you know, they talk about Amalek and, there's a video that went viral, how they charge usury to everybody else. That's how they made their money. Matter of fact, Weimar Republic got the way it was because of they was charging exorbitant amount of interest. When Amalek, so-called Jewish people take over the banks, they gonna hit you where it hurt, and they getting it from the law, our law, which is you can allow usury to heathen nations, but not to your own people. So there is a clause in the two Moabites brought that out, that the clause that allows for there's a special contract if you are of a descendant of a Jewish mother, because that's how they go by the matrilineal line. And then you sign a certain contract that doesn't charge you usury on your loans straight at the bank. So please believe this is still in full effect, only for the heathen that call themselves Israel. It says this release from debt, however, applies only to your fellow Israelites, not to the foreigners living among you. There should be no poor among you, for the Lord your power will greatly bless you in the land he is giving you as a special possession. So how can a man be poor if we are giving out loans and not charging usury? Here's a loan, brother. Get up on your feet, get your donkey, get your ass, go buy this, go buy a plot of land, patch of land. You want hard times? Here's how to get up, and then you help them up, right? With two or more. You know, two is better than one. You help that man up, you give him a loan, you start him up. He's able to have a family, he's able to have servants, and then next thing you know, he's up and running again. It's that simple. There should be no poor among you. It says, you will receive this blessing if you are careful to obey all the commandments of the Lord your power that I am giving you today. So it was a clause there. We obviously didn't keep that clause, and we sinned against our power, transgressed the laws, and we ended up in slavery. It says, the Lord your power will bless you as he has promised. You will lend money to many nations, but will never need to borrow. You will rule many nations, but they will not rule over you. And you see how the lending goes hand in hand with rulership, right? Being able to lend. That's why Maya Amschel Bauer, he had these scripts to be able to understand that, the lender, the borrower is subject unto the lender. The word subject means under the rule of. So by that nature, if somebody lends you money and you owe them, you are a servant or subject unto them. They rule over you for that period of time until your debt is paid off. And this is where debt slavery came from, that idea, because you are an actual slave until you pay it off. But you're some form of an indentured servant of a slave In the modern day aspect, you go to work to pay off your loans, pay off your bills. You go to work to do these things. You're like an indentured slave. You have to work now to pay off these loans. If you don't pay off these loans and you stop paying off these loans, they cut things off and they take things back, and they take your land, or they take your house, and they take your car. And guess who gets them? The bank, the people that already have more money, and they go ahead and sell it back for double down of what they got from you. So you still in debt, and now they just took their home back. You still in debt. You still hit hard. Your credit's all messed up. You can't go back and get another loan without it being even worse of an usury interest rate. And then they still made the money off you because they get to sell the property again to some next fool. Come to find out, that's what the whole housing market was all about. It was all about getting people into debt. You do not own your land, right? You do not. You have to pay taxes on land that you own. What kind of reality is this? This is hell. So the Lord allows us now to return back to him so that his promises could be fulfilled, so that we will be the ones lending to many nations again. And we will be the ones ruling, being lords over many nations again. And Lord willing, that's sooner than later. Definitely not no 1,000 years in the future. All right. Call Halayim Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. Barak this video was edifying. Until next time, Shalom.